Good morning. How do you find the equation rate law or the rate equation? Now, for this, you have to find experiments in which the concentration of one item has been changed and everything else has been left constant. Now, to do this, you normally do a set of experiments, and from this set of experiments, then you check the concentrations, you check the effect on the rate, and once that happens, you see whether the rate remains the same, whether the rate change proportionally, whether the rate change quadratically. Proportionally normally say if the concentration doubles and the rate doubles, okay? Quadratic if concentration doubles and the rate quadruples. But remember, proportionality and quadratic. So if I do times 1.5 and the rate is times 1.5, it is proportional. Okay? If I do times 3 and the rate is times 9, it is quadratic. Okay? It doesn't have to be times 2. So, when we take a look at this data that we have in front of us, we see that between experiment 1 and experiment 2, the bromate, BrO3 minus, doubled in concentration. The rate doubled as well. So, BrO3 minus doubled, rate doubled. Therefore, this would be first order. If we look between experiment 2 and experiment 3, it's about the bromide. The bromide, the concentration doubled. Actually, I think there is a mistake here. That must be a 3. So for the bromide, the concentration doubled and the rate also doubled. So for the bromide, the concentration doubled, rate doubled. Therefore, first order as well. For the H plus ions, we have to now compare the first with the fourth experiment, because that has to remain the same, that has to remain the same, so it's the first and the fourth. So when H plus doubles, rate quadruples. Therefore, this would be second order. And this is all easy because you have the exact numbers, you don't need to do anything, you just look at the data and you write the rate equation. So here you'll have R equals K, bromate, bromide, and H plus. As simple as that. The problem arises if you have this setup. So for the first one, it's going to be easy. Between experiment 1 and experiment 2, the concentration of A tripled and the rate, let me tell you exactly, I think it also was times 9. Okay, it was exactly times 9. So concentration of A tripled, rate times 9. Therefore, this will be second order. And this is fine. The problem arises, what happens? How am I gonna find concentration of B? I don't have something where this is also true. What I do have is I know that for A, okay, I know that for A, I will have a situation where I know how the rate will be changed. So I need to incorporate a fourth experiment. A fourth experiment that has concentration of A at 0.72, where those two are the same. Okay? And then the only other number I need is the 0.26. Okay? And I can use either experiment 1 or experiment 3. They will give me the same data. So, here I would be changing then. Comparing these two. That remains the same, that has doubled. Now, how do I go from experiment 2 to a rate for experiment 4? And this doesn't have to be another experiment. You don't have to actually do the experiment and measure it. What you do need to do is that, that from experiment 2 to experiment 4, concentration of A doubles. Therefore, rate should quadruple. And I know it should quadruple because I already have found that A will be, A will be second order. That I found. So that would become 7.56 times 10 to the minus 3. This also makes sense because when you look at these numbers, then you realize that when concentration of B doubles, rate is times 2. Therefore, it would be first order. For anyone who wasn't sure about what happens if I go from 0.12 to 0.72, that would be times 6. So this should be times 6 squared, which would give the same number. For MedSec, this has only come out once or twice. The ones I remember that it came out, it was 0 order. But the reality is, this is something that is in rates. I don't see why it shouldn't come out. These questions, and as you can see from previous exams, questions are changing a little bit. So please be aware of this. Maybe don't practice too many of these. Again, maybe a little bit on the harder scale. But be aware. Thank you.